Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Jeremy, Donovan, Arviso. I'm Dene, Hopi, Akama Atam, and To'ono Atam. There are 4 tribes here in Arizona. If you don't know, there's 22 federally recognized tribes in Arizona, and I'm from 4 of them. The Akama Atam is the Gila River tribe, and they are one of the original landlords of this area that you now live in. How many people have a American Indian relative, friend? Yeah? Right on, awesome. One of the things that I have been doing as a designer is bringing more visibility to my indigenous ancestry and our ancestral designs and traditions that have been woven into my DNA. A lot of the designs that I do now have been from dreams, stories, and visions that I've had. For a long time, those visions were clouded. I was a drug addict and an alcoholic for a really long time, and that clouded everything. I couldn't see straight, I didn't think straight, and I was still a designer, but I was coming from a different place. I wouldn't say a place of integrity, more out of a place of survival. So there's been so much growth that has happened, and it'll be 6 years next February 21st that I quit everything. There's a tremendous amount of discipline, a lot of sacrifices, and hard work, and that change was not easy. And so whether you're struggling with anything, depression, food, drugs, alcohol, whatever, those discipline, hard work, and resiliency is something that's built into every single one of us, whether you believe it or not. It's just training yourself to do that, and that's what today's presentation is going to be about. It's about growth. I'm the founder of Arviso 78 LLC. I'm a brand identity agency all by myself. And I oversee several brands. I have one called Hood Mats. It's a yoga mat company. I do yoga, been doing it since I was 17. And Original Landlords, it's a streetwear clothing brand and accessories line. And I'm also a jewelry designer and a father. I have a 14-year-old autistic son. So I do all this, and I still have time to come present to you. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you all for showing up today. Big shout out to Creative Mornings for inviting me to come out. I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements as of late, and I love it. It's my way of giving back to the community, the one that has nourished me and given me the support that I need to get to where I am today. And I take great pride in that because I feel that the only way that we move forward as a community is by giving back. And since we're in the season of giving, I'm doing as much of it as I can within my time constraints. So my portfolio it's expanded in the last 5 years to heights that I never would have imagined. As a young boy who grew up here in Phoenix, I was born and raised here in Phoenix and grew up in many different parts of the valley and on the reservation as well. Never would imagine I'd be doing some of the stuff that I'm doing today. I'm going to be using imagery from a collaboration that I did with the Museum of World Culture in Gothenburg, Sweden that opened this past May. They brought me out for a whole week for the opening. I designed the exhibition, I did all of the graphic design, and they even have some of my pieces in the exhibition itself. I'm a fashion designer as well. They've got my jewelry and other apparel in their gift shop, and I also did a fashion show on the opening of the museum. This museum is incredible. When you think of Sweden, you think of the height of design, and it really is. The streets, the buildings, I mean, everything about their society is very well designed. I felt so inspired being there. I went to Denmark and Copenhagen. I was just in love with everything. It was, coming from where I come from, it was something that I never thought I'd be able to do. So seeing all that, I brought it back home with me. And this exhibition is titled From Roots to Runway, Native American Fashion. It was a curated event that myself and 5 other people curated and put together, we amassed over 150 different indigenous designers from North America, a few from South America as well. And we presented this exhibition for Scandinavia. But today's focus is going to be on growth, what it really takes, from survival mode to sustainable expansion. It's me, it's my logo. I'm a creative director, and we're going to get started. Redefining growth. I never thought in a million years that the graffiti that I used to do here in the streets of Phoenix, the vandalism that I partook on these streets as a teenager, would get me into a museum in Sweden. Yeah. In Japan, too, I'm in another museum. It's called the Minpaku National Museum of Ethnology, and this place is absolutely incredible. My work's in there as well. Want to focus on Sweden, though. That is hand-drawn type for any of you typographers out there that love type. Graffiti is essentially the study of letters. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. As a graffiti writer, you get a name. With that name, you try to manipulate those words into as many different possible connections as you can to differentiate yourself from all the other people who are doing the same thing. The other part of graffiti is to get your name into as many places and as many crazy places as you can. The more you're seen, the better. That's marketing and advertising. I did not know any of this growing up. Not only that, but it also taught me color theory. Being able to use color to make my work pop off the wall. This was all inherently going into me, and I was just concerned about bigger, more, and did not know I was learning the fundamentals of design and how I was going to apply it later in life. So yes, they turned my hand style into a sign that welcomes people into the museum. Now, how I grew to this was over a long period of time. For me, I'd like to talk about growth, real growth. For a lot of us, that could mean more followers, more clients. In my world that I work in, a lot of people are looking at vanity numbers. How many followers do I have? How many people were at my presentation, et cetera, et cetera. I don't like to think about the metrics too much. I really believe more in the purpose and the message and the vision, and whoever's there can get a piece of that. Not a lot of followers. People think more sales, more noise. But I'm talking about the kind of growth that stretches you. It scares you a little and actually changes you and your community. I think for me, when I started to really lean into my community and build with them and not be such a introverted, egotistical asshole, I found that I was a lot more receptive to criticism, input, and sharing. And those are things that a lot of creatives battle. We all inside of our minds, whether it's sales, marketing, visual, video, photography, fashion, you're always in your own mind fighting yourself. And that's the worst place to be in my experience. So the community aspect of what I do has been a game changer in that I'm able to bounce ideas off of other people, and together we build something that lasts and something that's much more memorable. The dimensions of growth, personally speaking, for me has been personal, creative, professional, financial, and community impact. Over here, this image right here, this was an idea that I had proposed to the museum about my travels to Japan. There was these sneaker stores that I had visited that were just like museums. Like, this is a place where people buy shoes to put on your feet, but they're like museums. They treat retail a completely different way there. And I was telling them that what we should do is we should present these moccasins that they had a collection of. Some of these moccasins are, going on 200 years old. And I'm like, how about they wanted to display them in a very simple way. I'm like, how about we do something different? And we put them in encased glass, lit up, and they're displayed in a way that's like a shoe store. And they were just like, we can do that. I'm like, really? All right, cool. Let me, sketch it out. And they made it happen. And so being able to convey this like crazy, wild idea, we were able to make it happen as a community together from different continents, countries, language barriers. It was just like, that's the kind of community that I'm talking about, is being able to build locally and globally. A lot of us have been sold this idea that growth is only about getting bigger numbers, bigger audience, bigger revenue. But true growth is not just expansion, it's alignment. And so one of the things that I learned about working internationally is that you can align with just about anybody. It doesn't matter if you have different mindset, different religious views, your socioeconomic position. I mean, if you have the same value and vision, you can create something together. And that's where I find community to be my strongest fallback, is being able to rely on my community. That's why I'm here with y'all. Growth is when your direction, your values, and your actions are finally pointing the same way. Myself, I'm less interested in more and more interested in better, deeper, true, and authenticity. Something I really strive for is authenticity, and I believe in the era that we're in now of AI, authenticity is going to be increasingly more valuable and also difficult to create, because one of the things about AI is it could never replicate your vision, your voice, and your connection to the land, your connection with your animals, your plants, your home. That's never ever going to be able to replace that, or your community. It's never going to ever replace community. It's just one thing it cannot do. Financially, for me, the growth that I've gone through has been like night and day. Being able to, coming from a background of financial illiteracy, if you will, I've had to teach myself accounting. I've had to teach myself how to stick up for myself, how to ask for the sale. These are all things they don't teach you in school, design school, or even in college. It's like even if you're studying economics, they're not teaching you how to make the sale. You do this by going out and doing it on your own, being an experienced salesman. It's something that I've done in all the crazy jobs that I've had. Sales is something that I've always had a knack for, just talking to people and being able to sell them on an idea, a product, what have you. And I'm able to do that with my work now, being able to create contracts that show my value, my worth, and I stand behind them. And that it comes with delivering, following through, and creating a resume that nobody can fuck with. And that's something that I pride myself in, and it speaks for itself. And when that happens, you look at your bank account, you're just like, oh shit, something happened, and then that's just the hard work. And again, that comes with community. The community impact of me doing these things is I share my work for free. Every day, if you follow me on Instagram, I do a thing called 90 Seconds to Success, where I spend 90 seconds talking about a topic of the day, and I bring value. It's written out, and I say it in person on camera. I edit it while I'm walking, or on my bike, or on my hike, and this is what I give to the community for free. Something that I don't ask for a sale. I don't talk about my brand. I don't do none of that. I just give this out for free because I feel it's my way of giving back, and I'm sharing what I've learned in my experience with my community. Personal growth, the inner work. This was a massive sign that they had made with the typography that I created for the exhibition. And they wanted me to create a typeface that looked Native American. It's one of the things that we deal with as Indigenous designers, is there's a preconceived notion about what Native American design should look like. And it's really funny when you hear people say that. I get more of that in America than I do abroad. But in Sweden, they're like, yeah, we're not interested in papyrus, or any of these, what you would think of as like, stuff you see, you know, and I'm just like, no, they go, we really like your graffiti. And can you do that? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, hell yeah, I could do that. And so I did these graffiti style letters with little nuances of different regional indigenous design. A lot of times, most of the indigenous design that you see is Southwestern. But so I wanted to bring in some stuff from the Pacific Northwest, down in the eastern woodlands and the plains, and all the way up into the Arctic region to really try to give a little bit more semblance of indigenous design. So for me, the personal growth, the inner work is a lot like these letters, being able to figure out how to make them, go together so that they read well. The kerning, the legibility, and the color theory is all part, for me, the inner work of figuring out how I can make all the craziness in my mind work with, my body and how I present and how I deliver everything for my clients. The self-awareness, the discipline and habits, and healing old patterns. That's something that, as a American Indian, Native American, I like to call myself the original American. We have gone through so much trauma, generational trauma, that it's literally woven into our DNA. Like, kids that are born now have it in them already, some of the traumas that our ancestors have gone through. So right out the gate, you just have this, trauma in your blood already. Some of my family, myself included, have gone through some horrific stuff that is just really, really hard to get over. A lot of people didn't get out of it. So it's very fortunate for me to be here to speak in front of you all. I just turned 47, and to be able to have made it this far from the circumstances that I come from is resistance. And that resistance is something that I take pride in, and being able to be here to speak in front of all of you, that the original plan of eradicating the Native American didn't work, because now I'm sharing my story with all of you, and I'm showing you how I did it. And I enjoy and thrive on sharing it with my other Native American people as well. But healing old patterns is something that is a constant struggle, a constant daily practice, which is another reason why I do the 90 Seconds to Success, because I need to tell myself that every day. So I'm doing it for me first, and then everybody else I get to share it with as well. So most of the time when we say I want to grow, we usually mean one thing. It's often money or recognition. But growth is multidimensional. There's personal growth, who we are, creative or professional growth, what you do, financial growth, how you're sustained, and community growth, who benefits. So when these stay in balance, growth becomes sustainable instead of self-destructive. Creative professional growth, it's come a long way for me. This piece is the piece that I designed that's in the show. My brand is called The Original Landlords. So this is a play off the thank you bag, the old one. So it just says, thank you for decolonizing with us. And it says, have a nice day. And then on the bottom it says, please return to indigenous peoples for decolonization. Programs may not exist in your area. And it's just a play off of the bag. This outfit right here is something I would have worn in the 90s in the downtown warehouses when I used to go to these underground warehouse raves with electronic music and lasers and a bunch of other stuff I won't say. But I used to make these clothes and would wear them, and I'd go to school like that. And people would be like, where did you get those? And how can I get them? Like, oh, I made them. But how I even got to that point is I went and saw kids wearing them, and I said the same thing. And they're like, I made them. So I went home and I asked my mom, teach me to use the sewing machine. She's like, for what? I'm like, I want to learn how to use it. She's, well, what do you want to make? I was like, I want to make pants. She's like, pants? That's like a high level of garment making. I'm like, well, I want to learn. So all right. So she showed me, a day or two later, I'm just like, just making stuff. And that was how I developed my skills in high school. I did not know that what I was doing was starting my fashion design career. Had no clue. All I know is I wanted to be different, and then I wanted to stand out, not just at school, but at the party on the weekend. And that this was my way of self-identifying. This is me, I am here, look at me. And it was through style. And the piece, the jersey up top is a collaboration I did with a local cycling company called The Heavy Pedal. We dropped that in 2023, and it was, we dropped it on Indigenous Peoples Day, October 13th. And it was an amazing collection. I had so much fun doing it. We even organized a ride that day. And the museum loved this ensemble, so they bought it. It's in the museum, and it's got shoes and everything. But the skill and aesthetics that got me to this point were all through, creative and professional growth. I wasn't able to hone, one just doesn't get up and say, I'm going to be in a museum. It's something that's achieved over a long period of time. And because I have that, decades of experience, yeah, I do belong in a museum. I didn't know it, at the time, because I was stuck in a frame of mind of being an alcoholic and a drug addict and a criminal. I was always thought of myself like that. I didn't remember who I used to be before I started to self-medicate and deal with the trauma that I had experienced as a youth. And so I was numbing it with what was available. And in America, you can buy a can of beer for $2 at the gas station. They have little shooters at the pay register. That is crazy. You don't see that in other countries. It's nuts. And there's just all these ways for you to just kill yourself everywhere. And they all use graphic design. Have you noticed it? Design is evident in everything. Look, here. And great design, by the way. But that is what really fed my ego, is being into this person who I thought I was, because I was under the influence and not recognizing who I truly was. And what I experienced in my sobriety was that I started to get more curious about other ways of living. How could I change my perception of the world around me and the perception of myself? Am I going to be able to get over who I used to be, And there's always an attachment that we have to our old selves, whether that's business, creative, personal, relationships. We get stuck in the past, and it's really difficult to let go. That's the part of growth that hurts. For me, it's always been reps, not perfection, doing the same thing over and over and over and over. It's boring, but boring is successful. Boring works. Boring makes you better, and repetition makes you a master. And I always encourage my younger counterparts to keep doing what you're doing. Don't give up now. You have to do it for 5 more years, and then you're good. You're going to have 10 more years before you're amazing. 20, and then you can start thinking about being in a museum. But it's like, you can't just do it right out the gate. The people who do are very, very lucky. They know the right people. That isn't always going to happen. That's like winning the lottery. And it's the same thing with a lot of these influencers today on social media. Everybody wants to be a shortcut. They want to find instant success because we're addicted to the algorithm and how fast things are these days. But for me, in my world, the reps are what got me there. Skills got me there. Dimming my ego got me there. And every external breakthrough starts with internal shifts. Personal growth is uncomfortable because it asks you to be honest. What patterns are holding me back? Where am I self-sabotaging? What habits actually support the future I say I want? Before the opportunities come, you have to become the person who can handle them. And so for me, I believe truly that none of this would have been possible because I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. Well, how could I have done any of this? My thoughts weren't clear. My mindset wasn't right. my skills weren't on par, you know? There's just no way I could have did it. And so financial growth has been a game changer, you know, financial growth without losing your soul. You know, money is fuel, not identity. You know, charge your worth, deliver more. Systems over hustle. A couple quick points. For me, this part of my professional growth has been hard to deal with because I never had money growing up. And so now that I have it, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with it now, you know? And I've been learning and reading and investing and just talking to people and figuring it out on my own. And that's what you have to do. And a lot of times people will tell you what exactly to do. You just got to ask them. And I think it's the fear of not knowing is what keeps us, you know, back. Is that fear of like, they're going to think I'm stupid or I should know this, you know, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know it. And it's kind of crazy. And it's kind of crazy not to ask. So I'm one of those people who asks a lot. For me, money is not the enemy of growth. Chaos is. Financial growth doesn't mean selling out. It means setting up systems so your work can support your life, not crush it. For me, what that looks like is pricing properly, creating repeatable offers, understanding cash flow, and recognizing that your creativity has real value in the marketplace. This obviously takes time. I wouldn't be here talking in front of you, giving you these excerpts from my life if they weren't tried and true. And they are. They all work, and I continue to practice them every single day. And I'm sharing them because I know they work. And I've never had anybody share this kind of stuff with me. And giving you real world examples because I'm here. Easily put. You know, systems in place of hustling. I still am the quintessential hustler, but I've learned to use AI as an ally to help me put systems in place to streamline my workflow so that I can focus on being me, focus on doing the things that only I can do. And that's been a big game changer. I'd say within the last 365 days, my professional development and growth has grown as much as AI has. And if you pay attention to the stock market and everything that's going on with NVIDIA and microchips and the Valley of Phoenix itself is becoming the next Silicon Valley, it's growing at a rate that is a little scary. Some say unsustainable. So I use it as an ally and as a tool. Most creatives, as you all know that we use tools to enhance our work. We don't rely on them. So I don't rely on AI to do what I do. I rely on this and my connection with the community and my family and my people. So, you know, charging what you're worth is another hurdle a lot of my colleagues and counterparts have, is they don't know what their value is or what they're worth. You ask. That's another thing. Ask and figure it out, because if you don't make a decision about what your worth is, someone will make it for you, and it's not going to make you happy. And I learned that way too many times. And so being able to be firm in my pricing structure and how I write out my contracts is I stand behind them and I hold the line, because, you know, if it's not going to work out, then okay, then I'm not the right designer for you. I'd love to work with you, but I'm just not the right designer for you. But I have somebody else who might be interested. I use that a lot, and it works. And then they come back, all right, yeah, I guess we'll do it. I'm like, don't sound so disappointed. You're buying value. You know, this is going to, you know, boost your brand. It's not going to do the opposite. Like, feel good about this transaction. It's not transactional. This is actually building value for your company. It's something that you're going to talk about in the future. And that's the same thing that this museum has done. They're just like, wow, they knew the value that I was bringing to the team and to their museum and to their country. And I never saw that in myself. They made me believe in it. Community and collective growth. For me, changing the I to we has been a game changer. going back to the ego thing, representation and responsibility, lifting as you climb. I use this photo for this slide because these are the people that worked, some of the people, half. The photo goes all the way to the other side, but I couldn't fit it. But these are the people that were all involved in the Native American fashion exhibition in Gothenburg, Sweden. And it was a community and collective effort, and one that I'll always remember. And meant so much to be there and to have so many people come together with a shared vision and goal. And that's where I find my work lives, is in community with the same principles, visions, and goals as the people that I'm collaborating with. And that's when the project really just blows up and explodes and takes a life of its own. For me, growth is definitely a seasonal thing as well. But the way that I like to look at representation and responsibility is because who I am as a Native American, American Indian, original American, I have a responsibility to represent my people in a way that is the way I see fit, not anybody else. A lot of times people will try, just like with the whole, oh, we want it to look Native American. Their perception of what we're supposed to look like, sound, or behave is not theirs, it's mine. So I'm in a position of influence now, so I use my platform to send out a message that I feel is needed, one that is visible, and one that is honoring the past, but also leaning into innovation and technology and bridging that gap and making sure that we're not left behind, because that's what it was designed to do. And so when people meet me and talk to me, they're very surprised, because I mean, sometimes I dress a little funkier than this, and sometimes I dress in a suit. And so, I mean, I'm like a chameleon, and it really puzzles people when they meet me, that they're just like, how, you know, and the how is the why, survival, you know. I learned all of this because I had to, and once I learned something, I'm like, well, how does that work? Okay, well, if that's that, and this goes together, there's always more to learn, and so I've always embraced that. I will forever be a student until the end. And most elders in my culture say the same thing. You never stop learning until the day you meet Creator. And I feel the same way. And lifting others around me as I climb is very important. And that also goes with the whole ego thing, is the I becomes we. When you start to bring your people with you, you start to realize that you're not alone anymore. And that community in our culture is called a tribe. You know, when you have your tribe behind you, you have power, you have respect, you have love, you have sustainability. And all of that we can do that in this room. You know, everybody in this room, we can do that together. It doesn't matter what we think about outside of this room. It's how we feel together right now. And that's the part that's really important when you're getting to this level of growth with community and collective growth, is that you want to lift those around you up along with you. And not only does it feel good, but it looks good. And when it feels and looks good, it attracts. And so you start attracting more like-minded people, more like-minded businesses, and I don't even really promote my work anymore. People find out about it and they call me and they want to work with me, and that's what happens when you start to lean into everything that I'm talking about, is you don't have to go look for work anymore. It comes to you. The seasons of growth. For me, growth is definitely seasonal. I'm Native American, you know. I'm just kidding, but yeah, we do have strong, firm beliefs in the seasons and the directions, north, east, south, west, the numbers, You know, all these things are very significant within our culture and our belief systems and our values. And I really like to blend them into my work as a designer and an entrepreneur and an artist. So I really feel that, you know, and the 4 quarters of a year are, you know, they were designed this way for business, for capitalism, if you will. Capitalism is something that, you know, Native Americans weren't supposed to learn, but here we are, you know, doing it and thriving. And it's a tool that I use to help bring those around me up. And for me, season 1 is always planting, you know, vision and foundation. I'm always working on this, though. In the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about my vision, foundation, the next project, the next collaboration. You know, what's the vision? What's the foundation? What are we building upon? And that's the part where I feel is probably the most important and integral part. AI helps with that part. And it's a great place for a lot of us to lean into, is the vision and foundation part. There's a lot of things that get kind of self-doubt, you know, self-awareness. There's things that are in your mind that you can't control, but when you let something like AI think for you, then you can start to break down the logistical parts of it and be like, oh shit, I didn't think of that. Like, oh wow, good point, you know, and you can build out your vision and your foundation, and then take out what you don't need and take what you can use. 2 is grinding. Season 2, you know, building and learning. This is the grit. This is the hard work. This is where the sweat comes in. This is the heavy lifting. This is the part that is your skills and your aesthetic and what you're known for. This is talent. You know, all that boring day after day menial tasks that you're doing that you're just like, I gotta do this. Stop saying I gotta do this. Say I get to do this. Yeah, I get to work on this project, you know. It's gonna take 20 hours, but it's all good. I got this, you know, but maybe a few sleepless nights, but you know, I gotta present it in 24 hours and I have 20. I got this, you know. It's those crazy, crazy nights of grinding, building, and learning. And if you're like me, sometimes when you take on a client that you're not fully aligned with, but you feel that you can bring something to the table, you're learning at the same time. You know, you're like, you're doing your research and you're figuring out, how can I figure out this problem for them if I don't really understand it, because I don't understand the company fully or their, you know, their game plan. So that's where you're learning and constantly building and figuring things out. For me, that's the fun part, the conceptualization and the grinding and the hard work. It gets you to season 3, the harvest, you know, results recognition. I'm in this stage right now where all the work that I've put in at the beginning of the year, even last year, I've started to harvest it, and I gotta say, man, it's been incredible. I've had one of the greatest years that I've had as a professional in one of the scariest times of our history. You know, as the world continues to get crazier and scarier by the day, I am growing. It's kind of it's a little weird. It's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways, because I see a lot of my friends, community members, colleagues having a very rough time financially. You know, there's food insecurities, housing shortages. There's wars going on. I mean, the world just seems to be falling apart. But here I am doing amazing. It's really kind of a paradox in that I have to remind myself everything that I had to sacrifice to get to this point, and that I will not dim my light to make other people feel comfortable. You got to do the same too, and make sure that you're always being your #1 cheerleader. So results and recognition, that's what keeps me going. Season 4 is pruning, you know, cutting and realigning, making sure that you're always taking care of yourself first, rest, relaxing, resetting, and making sure that you're taking care of your family, your animals, your pets, your plants, your home, your community, because they will take care of you. And that's the part that you can't regenerate, and you need that in order to sustain yourself. For me, it's the problem is we want harvest without planning and grinding. The real growth respects the seasons. Some indigenous wisdom for you. I'm just kidding. Okay, obstacles of growth, fear of failure, comparison and perfectionism, overcommitment, and no boundaries. So the things that block growth are usually internal, not external, at least in my experience. Fear of failing publicly, fear of succeeding and then not being able to keep up, comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. You know, like a lot of the fashion people I work with, they see me doing my thing, that they don't know that I've been doing this since I was a teenager, you know? And when they find out, they're just like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, well, why would you? You've only known me for, what, 2 or 3 months on social media. It's like, you know, it's so comparing yourself, it's the worst thing you could ever do. The person in the mirror is the only competition that you should have. Saying yes to everything, so you're too burned out to do the important work. No is my favorite word, and it has so much respect and power when you get to a point where you can say it. I try to use it as often as possible when I can. Growth requires courage, boundaries, and a willingness to be misunderstood for a while. Boundaries are super important for me. They're not walls keeping people out. They're invisible lines that protect my self-respect and peace of mind. And I use them so that I can focus on the task at hand, get work done, and make sure that I'm protecting my energy. Very important, especially as designers, creatives, sales, marketing, advertising, design, fashion, music, what have you. Protecting your energy before you let it out the gates is how it builds more strength. Kind of like in a video game, you know, when one of the characters is building up all this energy in his hand and he throws it, you know, it's kind of like that. I watch a lot of sci-fi, so yeah, so the overcommitment and boundaries, you know, that's very important in my world. Is I never say I'm going to do more than I can. I do the job as timely as possible, and I try to do more than they ask for. And by doing so, this creates my reputation, and that ends up being more work and better people talking about you and bringing your name up in rooms that you're not in. All right. Principles for sustainable growth. Okay. Start smart, stay consistent, align decisions with values, track what matters. Rest is part of the strategy. A simple growth framework. If you want a practical way to move forward, clarify, who am I becoming? What am I building? Commit, what will I do consistently in the next 90 days? Connect, who can I support and who can support me? Everything we just talked about. Growth is uncomfortable, you know, but so is staying the same. And most of us know that. And we wouldn't be here if you didn't want to grow. We're here to grow and talk about growth. And sometimes it's doing things that you don't normally do. What's one area that you're ready to grow in next? You know, you don't know that unless you try. Growth will cost you comfort, your old patterns, and sometimes your old circles, but staying the same will cost you your potential. That was me being an alcoholic and a drug addict. Thank you, y'all. Yeah, appreciate it.